welcome back to the channel. Hey guys, I'm Amrit, here to help you live a life that you love. As some of you may know, I'm actually in the middle of a YouTube course presented by Ali Abdal. It's called the PTYA, Part-Time YouTuber Academy. And today's video is actually a bit of a spur kick in the right direction by him. He invited us to make a video on something that we dearly, dearly, dearly love. Now, straight out of the gate, one of the initial things he said is, for those of you that already have a prominent YouTube channel, you probably don't want to have to go away and create this particular video because it may be off-brand. And part of me initially thought, yeah, actually that is very off-brand for me to start talking about things rather than people, because I'm a people person, as you guys know. But also, I remain always inspired to evolve. And with that, there's always the essence of take a grain of humility and try something new. Why not? So in true inspired evolution fashion, I'm going to give this video a crack. Today's video is going to be about 5 reasons why I love my guitar. I remember when I first went to Brazil, and that was the first place I actually picked up the guitar to try and play it properly under the guidance of this incredible teacher named Carioca. He is... Man, I remember being at this retreat with Carioca, and when I first went there, he taught me my first 2 chords, which was an A minor and a C. It was the A minor and the C. And he gave me my first picking pattern, which was... Now, with that, in true Carioca style, he was like, okay, so you ready to get a guitar? And I was like, wait, I've got a little $100 guitar at home. And he said, is it a good instrument? I said, look, it's a cheapo secondhand instrument, but it should bridge the gap. Like, I'm just learning, right? I've got 2 chords and I've got 1 picking pattern, which you just showed me. How good a guitar do I really need? And this is the first point I wanted to make today, which was... what he shared with me was, actually, when you're a beginner, you need a really amazing instrument. And if you can invest in one, you should. Whereas a maestro can make any old thing sound really good. But when you're a beginner, spending a solid investment on a good instrument, the sound and the quality of the instrument draws you in, and it builds a romance for you, builds a connection for you with that instrument that invites you to want to connect with the instrument again and again and again and again. And actually, that's how you can hack getting better faster if you're so called to do so. That led me on a journey of getting a good guitar. There are a bunch of amazing incredible Brazilian guitars out there in the world. Brazilian rosewood at the moment is a protected species in Brazil. So it's very difficult to get a Brazilian rosewood guitar. I was so blessed that I got a secondhand guitar. So yeah, this is a Brazilian rosewood back with a cedar top guitar. As you can see, it's got that darker sort of wood. Probably to give you some reference, you can get most classical guitars are made of cedar wood tops or spruce tops, spruce being the lighter one, cedar being the darker one. And the top makes a massive difference. The top is where all of the sound is actually generated for the guitar. So that is actually the most important part of the guitar. There's been plenty of experiments of people actually making guitars with spruce tops or cedar tops and just actually like paper mache backings, and the guitars sound amazing. The difference between cedar and spruce was something I wanted to mention. So spruce is a bit more bell-like and the sound's a bit more direct and it projects a little bit better across the room. But cedar has this warmth to it, which the notes sort of blend and harmonize a little bit better. So it depends on the sort of sound you're looking for. And this is this is just how I look at things. So I sort of see the spruce top as being a bit more of a panther and sort of the sound that it produces, and I see the cedar top as a bit more of a, those woolly mammoth kind of like warmth, shaggy, like they got that, there's a thing about them. So yeah, that's what I get out of the 2 different instruments. One of my favorite ways that someone had put it was, when you pick up a quality spruce classical guitar, you will find that it's like you've met your best friend. It's the same, like the simile is it's you're hanging out with your best friend when you're hanging out with a spruce top guitar. But when you're hanging out with a cedar top guitar, you're hanging out with your lover. So there's qualities to both of them. You can't pick one over the other, that's for sure. And it just depends on what you prefer. Brazilian rosewood, the reason it's one of the most sought after, now most people seem to lean to Indian rosewood because it has characteristics that are as close to Brazilian rosewood of the rosewoods. There's also, I think it's called caboclo, which is, I think, East Indian rosewood. I may be wrong about that. But yeah, the Indian rosewood, most similar to the Brazilian rosewood, but there is the Brazilian rosewood is quite remarkable in that it has what they call velocity of sound. So a high velocity of sound. And that's how fast, when you tip the instrument, something like when you nick the instrument, sound sort of emanates from it, how quickly it projects that sound. The reason why I believe that is useful is because when you're playing multiple notes on the guitar, it gives this opportunity for different notes to come out faster together at the same time. And as the wave of the sound continues to open up, it blooms more, and then you create more harmonics. And so it has so much more character. And I think therein lies the real rub. So cedar has a really high velocity of sound, and so does the Brazilian rosewood. So together, they're quite the combination of guitar. And I feel really blessed, touch wood, to have such an amazing guitar that was inspired to me by karaoke. And the wisdom being, get yourself a really, really good guitar, and it'll encourage the journey of your guitar playing as a student. It will fan the flames, get you going a lot faster, because you're just going to love your guitar and you're going to love playing it, and it's going to sound so good. And I have to admit, when I come home and play this guitar, I absolutely lose time in this exercise, like just playing the guitar. But I have the other guitar that I thought I was going to play, which was the cheapo one. And I shouldn't call it the cheapo one, but it was a cheaper $100 guitar. It doesn't have the same sound, and it doesn't invite you. Like, you can play your song on it, absolutely, but you can't really get lost in the sound with it. Point number 2 is the guitar actually taught me a lot about the importance of practice. The guitar I've been playing for about 5 years now, so probably just beyond the beginner stage, I say, but with the depth of what's available to learn the guitar, I don't think you really ever get to mastery. Like, there are definitely geniuses out there that play it, but one of the things that I have subsequently learned since becoming a father is I don't get as much time to sit down and play the guitar for an hour straight or 2 hours straight. I did last night, actually, which was an amazing gift. But one of the things I found is for work, often commuting in and out of the city, and I've decided now to take the train. When I sit on the train, I've actually got a little mini practice guitar. It doesn't emit any sound. It just plugs sound into my headphones, and I just sit there and I just play along, and I'm just running my drills, running my exercises, right? So I'm doing that 6 to 8 times a week, where I'm just practicing, for 45-minute stints. Now, 45 minutes is quite long, but by the time you get in settled, it's probably only works out to be about a 30-minute stint. Ultimately, what I have found is that short bits of training consistently is significantly better than long bursts of training over a shorter period of time. Me practicing for 15 minutes a day for across 7 or 5 days a week is under 2 hours of practice overall. But I think it's significantly better, the results that you get, than just going into a deep dive over one session where you spend an hour or two. You're spending probably the 2 hours on, it's the same 2 hours that you might be spending, but spreading it out over multiple days is significantly better when it comes to practice. Now, I was fascinated by this because I could see myself improving significantly faster when I was doing consistent practice in shorter increments. And I was fascinated by this and understanding the process of myelination. So for those that know something about myelination, it's a beautiful phenomenon. It's when they say neurons that wire together in your brain, what they're actually talking about, that wire that they're talking about between the two neurons, is called myelination. Now, the way I look at it is it's an information of light, right? So light is basically pinging from one neuron to the other. And when you sit down to practice for an extended period of time, you sort of, you're pinging that node between each other for, a couple of hours. But the critical thing is you then go to sleep, and that's where the highway gets built. You regenerate while you sleep, right? So that's when the pathway is being formed, is when you spend the day trying to ping the pathway in your practice session, whether it's an hour, whether it's 15 minutes, whether it's 2 hours. At night is where the myelin sheath sort of builds between those two nodes. Now, you'll notice that if I'm only practicing, let's say, Saturday, Sunday, even if it's for 2 hours, I'm only getting 2 lots of sleep, and so only 2 bits of pathway sort of mapping out in your head. Whereas if I was practicing 5 or 7 days of the week during the weekdays, let's say, or all throughout the week, even though I'm practicing for only 15 minutes, every time I sleep, and this was my profound, like, awareness was like the thing that was profoundly shifting me was I would struggle with something on the day when I was practicing, but then I'd go to sleep, I'd wake up the next day and it had dropped in, like it had just clicked in. It was like, oh, I can do that now. And I got so much joy from the journey, from those click-ins. It was so much fun. So I was like, boom, this is amazing. And that's when I started to realize, myelination is a very important process, but the sleep is a fundamental piece to the myelination, to your ability to learn new skills. Practicing is key, but it's practice plus sleep. It's not practice makes you perfect. It's practice plus sleep makes you perfect. And the key takeaway there is practice in increments, not in deep dives. Practice in increments, not in deep dives. So the third reason why I love my guitar is because it gives me an opportunity to take quality breaks throughout the day. Now, you guys often see this setup here. What you don't see is that the guitar is literally just out of frame, sitting right here. And even in the process of filming videos and stuff, I will take a minute or two after to just decompress, just to flush through my mind, just to take a quality break. And sometimes those breaks will go for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And what they have found for high performance individuals consistently, again and again, on the macro durations of the time in their life and also in the micro durations of time in their life, whether it's mapping out a day or whether it's mapping out a year, the quality of your performance, high performance 101, is directly related to the quality of your breaks, right? And how well you take breaks. This is High Performance by Brendan Burchard, right? So the number one thing, and it sounds counterintuitive because it's like, if I'm in high performance, aren't I just like always on the treadmill banging it out, And it's like, actually, no. You're really good at sprinting and understanding your recovery, then you recover really well, and then you come back and sprint again. Having the guitar in my space like this right next to me is so helpful because I will consistently end up in rabbit holes and I'll just take a moment and I'll just need a break and the guitar will be there just inviting me into a break. Now, I also used one of the hacks from James Clear's Atomic Habits. James Clear talks about the 4 stages of the habit loop. The first one being the cue, the second one being the craving, and the third one being the response, and the fourth one being the reward. And it's this loop, right? And then you reward yourself well, and then the cues come back in. So cue, craving, response, and reward. Now, again, leaning in on point 1, because it's such a nice guitar, the cue, and I leave it out on a stand, right? I don't put it away in a guitar case. I leave it out on a stand, even though it's such a nice guitar. Many people would sort of say that's a bit taboo, but the reason I've got it out on the stand is so that I can see it and it gives me the cue, and I've upgraded the cue in Atomic Habits terms. So if I would have had the $100 guitar sitting there, sure, like I'd see it and I'd be like, oh yeah, I could play that, or, I can scroll on my phone, right? But the fact that I've got this amazing instrument just sitting right there and it's like, all right, I've got 5 minutes, and it's like, yeah, let me just quickly just work on something, right? And I'll just quickly just like punch out a song or just find some sounds or play a couple of chords and just take a break, literally, and then put it back down once I've sort of finished and go back to my work. It's improved the quality of my breaks, which ensures I know my quality of high performance because my performance, because I'm clearer in my mind thanks to the breaks that I'm taking. The fourth reason why I absolutely love the guitar is because it's this incredible gift of meditation, because it's an exercise in mindfulness right into itself. Like as you're doing drills or as you're playing a song, oftentimes once you've started getting a little bit good at the guitar, I feel like you start to lose yourself as you're playing, and you sort of close your eyes, you're getting into it and you're playing it, or maybe you're just focusing on your hand. And then sometimes you're playing and then you start to think about something else, or you start to think, am I doing that right? Or what could I do differently? And then as you're thinking, you start to lose the flow, right? You drop out of flow. And then coming back into flow is like, oh, stop thinking. And you just like go back into the flow and the meditative space. So it's a really great exercise in mindfulness, and I see it as like a waking, meditation, because it lets you know when your thoughts have kicked in, because you actually slip up and you start making errors and you start making mistakes when you're thinking too much. So I find it really gorgeous in that way. It adds to my practice of mindfulness and living mindfully for sure. And the fifth reason why I absolutely love the guitar, if you guys are still here, thank you so much for sticking along. As you can tell, I truly love my guitar, is the frequency, the songs, the vibration. I'm sure that, that people get a lot out of the different songs they play. I know I do. I have dedicated my guitar practicing and my musical openings to devotional music, and it connects me to music that is just songs that, really speak to the heart of what's going on in life. And it can be really powerful to just work on a song for a month or 2 months or 3 months, or work with a song that can really speak to what I'm going through in life at the time. And it helps me, I wish there was a less hippie way of saying this, but it really helps me connect to my frequency of myself, connect to my authenticity, touch wood, but also helps me navigate turbulent times, right? Because I'm connecting to a song, connecting to a prayer that is really helpful to just meditate upon. It's like a positive affirmation on steroids. It's a song, I'm building it, I'm working it, I'm learning to infuse that song into my being as I'm learning to play it. Touch wood. It's a real gift the vibration frequency that the guitar can then bring into your life by giving you the ability to carry a song really nicely. And that sort of bleeds into the sixth reason, and it's the fifth reason. They're both kind of the same, right? Is a good guitar is like having a really good friend. And a great guitar is like having a great friend, right? And great doesn't necessarily mean expensive, yeah? Obviously, that was where the video started. It's not at all what I mean. It's just like your relationship with it is great, or your relationship with it is good. So a good guitar is like having a really good friend. You might be having a down day and you can go spend, 3 hours in conversation with your friend, or, even just a 30-minute drop in with your mate, or 15 minutes, and, things shift and you start to feel different and you walk differently. And it's like, you're clearer in your walk because they gave you the right piece of advice that you wanted. And, learning to play, devotional music for me, but learning to connect to the guitar is, just those 15-minute, 20-minute drop-ins or 60-minute drop-ins gives me the opportunity to just lean in, go in for like a hug with my mate and just go, yep, it's just a really nice relationship, touch wood, to have and build. I'm a super kind of kooky, so I've named my guitar, and, maybe you might want to do the same. The name of this particular guitar is cedar, which means the one in service. As you know, contribution is my second highest value. It gives me an opportunity to connect to my values by naming it cedar. It's a Punjabi word. And this guitar actually is called ghar, which means home in Punjabi. And it's an opportunity to come home, I guess. So having a good guitar is like having a good friend. And so that's 5 reasons why I love my guitar. I'd love to know what your favorite instrument is, or what your favorite thing is that potentially I was called out by Ali to create this video. What would you be creating? If someone said, hey, what's your favorite thing? You got to create a video on it. What would you be creating a video on? And thank you so much for tuning in all the way into the end. One of my greatest inspirations for making music and playing the guitar, and one of my teachers, was Murray Kyle. Here's a video that I did with him on the podcast quite a few years ago. And recently, my current guitar teacher, Shai Agmon, I did an episode with him. The video for him is just here. So you can click on either of those videos and enjoy the conversation around music further. Big love, y'all.